Probably heard about Finland's education system, right? For years, it's been held up as this perfect model. But how did they actually build it? And what happens when that so-called miracle starts to face some serious challenges? Today, we're going to unpack that whole story. So let's get right into it. The big question is, how does a country go from having a pretty average, even mediocre school system to becoming the gold standard for the entire world? Well, it wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate, decades-long strategy, and we're going to walk through it. First up, we have to understand where Finland started. And believe me, it was not a pretty picture. Back in the mid-20th century, their system was all about one thing: inequality.
Okay, get this. After just 4 years of basic schooling, when a kid was maybe 10 years old, their entire future was basically decided. You were either funneled into an academic grammar school, your ticket to university, or you were sent to a civic school, which was pretty much a path to manual labor. It created this huge wall that stopped social mobility in its tracks. And that right there, that was the problem Finland set out to solve.
So what was the solution? Well, it wasn't some single magic bullet policy. It was a whole series of really radical connected reforms. And all of them, every single one, was driven by a shared national belief in one core value: equity. And you have to understand, this was not a quick fix. This was a slow, strategic transformation that played out over decades. Each change built on the one before it, starting way back in the 70s with the biggest move of them all.
The peruskoulu. This was the absolute cornerstone, the foundation of the whole new system. It meant that every child, and I mean every child, no matter if their parents were rich or poor or if they lived in a big city or tiny village, went to the same kind of school for 9 years. The goal was simple but revolutionary: guarantee everyone the exact same opportunity.
Now here's where it gets really crucial. The Finns understood a simple truth: you can't have great schools if you don't have great teachers. So they set out to make teaching one of the most respected, most selective professions in the whole country. It actually became harder to get into a teaching program than into law or medical school, and every single teacher had to earn a full, research-based master's degree.
And this quote, this really gets to the heart of their philosophy. The whole system is built on trust, not top-down micromanagement. There are no high-stakes national standardized tests, no army of school inspectors. Instead, they trust their incredibly well-trained teachers to be the professionals they are and give them the freedom to do what's best for the kids in their classrooms.
So Finland puts in decades of this hard, patient work. What happened? Well, by the early 2000s, it started to pay off in a huge, spectacular way on the world stage. When the big international PISA tests started up, the ones that compare 15-year-olds in reading, math, and science all over the world, Finland just burst onto the scene. They were the undisputed stars, consistently ranking at or near the very top of the charts. They hit their absolute peak in 2006. And look at the gap here. That's what's so wild. It wasn't just that Finland was doing well, they were crushing the average for other developed nations. The world really woke up and took notice. It kicked off this thing called PISA tourism, where educators from all over the globe were literally flying to Finland to figure out, what is your secret? And you know what? The secret wasn't some complicated teaching method nobody had ever heard of. It was equity, plain and simple. The system was never designed to create a handful of elite schools. It was designed to make every single school a great school. And because of that, the difference between their best-performing students and their worst-performing students was one of the smallest in the world. But the story doesn't just end there on that high note. Like in any good drama, there's a plot twist. Over the last decade or so, even the celebrated Finnish model has started to show some cracks. The latest PISA results really drove this home. It confirmed what had been a slow but steady trend, a decline from that amazing peak in 2006, and a 64-point drop in math. That's not just a little dip. That's a pretty serious slide, and it's kicked off a major national conversation about what's going on. So what happened? Well, experts think it's a mix of a bunch of different things. There's real concern about too much screen time in the classroom, a curriculum that some people feel has gotten a little too unstructured, and of course the very real impact of budget cuts. But maybe most alarmingly, those core pillars of equity are being tested, with a student's family background starting to have a bigger impact on their success. But here's the thing about Finland. They don't just stand around when they see a problem. They're already responding with new reforms, like this Right to Learn program, and it's aimed squarely at getting back to basics, strengthening those core skills in reading and math, and doubling down on their national focus on quality and equity for every kid. Okay, so let's put this all together.
After looking at Finland's incredible rise, its more recent struggles, and how it's adapting, what can the rest of us actually learn from this whole journey?
Lesson number 1, and if you remember nothing else, remember this. Invest in your teachers. It's everything. Finland proved that the quality of your education system can never be better than the quality of your teachers. They made it a top-tier, respected profession, and then they trusted those teachers to do their jobs. That was the foundation for all their success.
The second huge lesson, put equity first, above everything else. We often talk about excellence and equity like they're a trade-off, like you can't have both. Finland proved that's completely wrong. Their laser focus on closing the gaps and making every school a good school is exactly what lifted everybody up.
Third, they focus on the whole child. This is a system built for learning, not just for testing. Finland gets that student well-being, things like less stress, more playtime, more support, isn't some fluffy extra. It's the essential foundation you need for real academic success.
And the final lesson is patience. This has to be a long game. Finland's transformation didn't happen because of one politician or one new law. It happened because of a consistent, long-term vision that pretty much everyone in the country bought into for decades. It's a powerful reminder that building something great is a marathon, not a sprint.
And really, that's the ultimate question, isn't it? Maybe the most important lesson from Finland isn't a specific policy that we can just copy and paste into our own countries. Maybe the real lesson is to copy their courage. The courage to look honestly at your system and then patiently and bravely build the one your children truly deserve.